Hi. On my last video, I started a topic about panic attacks. And in part 2 of this video, I wanted to give you some practical ways that you could get through those scary moments that are free. And maybe some of them you've practiced and they're helpful. Maybe some of them you hadn't thought of before. Certainly, if there are any strategies that you use to cope with panic attacks, put them in the comment below and tell me about it. That might help me. So grab a drink, a cup of coffee or something. Well, maybe not a cup of coffee. Trying to talk about panic attacks and coffee. Just kidding. Coffee doesn't affect everybody that way. But grab a drink and we'll have a powwow about ways of dealing with panic attacks. First of all, I wanted to say, I didn't mention in my first video, I just opened up the subject, and some people have panic attacks, and I had talked about in my first video them being there as your friend, as a way of helping you, of telling you, alerting you of something that you need to address. But certainly there are genetic predispositions to having this disorder, and I have that plus traumas. I have both. Some people have anxiety attacks that aren't related necessarily to trauma or anything like that, or maybe even being overwhelmed in their life. It's just genetic. It's a chemical imbalance, and certainly go to your doctor. And sometimes in acute cases, just until you get to a better place with your counselor or have some tools, medication can be helpful to get you stabilized, where you're having anxiety attacks that are just debilitating you in every area of your life. So I wanted to say that because I didn't say that in my first video. Number one in tools of dealing with panic attacks. Ooh, this is so light. Okay, there it is. The sun's shining. Isn't it beautiful out here? I think, first of all, understanding what panic attacks are and viewing them differently, as I had talked about in the first video. Knowing this, that they will not kill you. It feels like you're going to die. I have crawled the emergency room floors in my past thinking I was having a heart attack or something very bad was wrong with me. And certainly there was, but I perceived it as life and death, absolute danger. And that's common, very, very common, because that's what it feels like. You're going to die, like you're free falling off of a cliff, and you need something to grab a hold of that's solid, but you can't find it in that moment. And these are some ways of helping with that. But first, understanding that it will pass. It feels like it won't, but I'm here to tell you they always do. They always pass. In fact, the average time for panic attacks, even though they feel like an eternity at the time, is maybe, for me, 20 minutes. But I have certainly in the past, especially when I first began having them, where they lasted for 2 hours, and they would range in intensity like labor pains. If you're a mom, they would come in and it get very, very intense, and my heart would race harder, and then they would subside, but I would still feel terrified, and then they would. So I've had that happen as well. So if you're experiencing that, you're not alone. That does happen. It's happened to me. I am, as I said, not a substitute for a doctor. I am just here giving a story and experiences that have helped me. I am an example. You should always see a professional about these things. So, understanding that they won't kill you. The worst that could happen is that you hyperventilate and breathe, even not realizing it, and pass out from that and wake up and probably be in a much calmer state than you were when you fell out. That's probably the very worst thing that could happen. So keeping that number one in the forefront of your mind, and maybe even repeating that to yourself in that moment, can help you to say, this feels like it's going to hurt me. I've already been checked out by a medical doctor. They've ruled out physical possibilities, because that's one thing that you want to do. That's why I'm telling you, go to your doctor. If it's not anxiety, it's something else, then go so they can do the tests and find out and fix that. If they rule all that out and say you have an anxiety disorder, then you know to tell yourself, this will pass. It will not kill me. My doctors have said that I'm okay. They've run tests on me, my heart, whatever they may feel like needs done. And just knowing that the worst that could happen is that you may pass out. It's never happened to me, but I've heard other people's stories where that has happened to them. Okay. Searching here for, my notes are so messy. Having the one person, number 2, practical way, having one person in your life, having some forethought to have one person that is your support system that you could call potentially any time, day or night, even if you don't reach them, to leave them a message and say, please call me. Someone that makes you feel safe, that always makes you feel safe, that's like that safe space. It could be grandma, it could be a best friend to talk to in those moments. Certainly call them. Even the sound of their voice, even though you don't maybe think so, can bring that anxiety level down a notch. And they can certainly talk you through it. Talk to them ahead of time about things they could say or remind you of. Number 3, panic attacks often happen in public spaces. It's happened to me a number of times. And when it happens in your car, when you're driving, that can be a whole nother level of scary. Especially when you got your 2 little boys in the back of the car, because that's happened to me. And I'm thinking, find a safe place as possible and pull that car over. Pull it over. Get out of the car in a safe place. Get off of the road. Find the nearest McDonald's. Somewhere where you can get out, call that safe person, or get yourself something to drink and go sit. If it's a beautiful day like today, find a tree, go sit out there for a while and let that ride its course. Once you feel safer, then you can get in your car and go on home. Or if home is really close, turn that car around, go back to your safe place, go home. Call that appointment and say, I'm sorry, but take care of yourself first and foremost. So that's the 3rd thing. 4th thing that can be the most difficult, I found for me, is your breathing. It's very hard when you're in the middle of a panic attack to focus on your breathing. And I know that sounds so silly and simple, but it can be huge. And people talk about your breathing a lot. And me personally, I forget that one. And another thing in that breathing that can help you just to be able to focus on your breathing is to pick up a rubber band, to pick up a rock, something that you can hold solid in your hand, something to grab a hold of, and if you're with someone that you trust and that you love, it could be grandma, it could be your husband, your best friend, have them hold your hand if that I know that might be awkward for some people, but just something you can grab a hold of, that rubber band you can play with, or something while you focus on just your breathing. It's really, that's important, and it seems simple, but it is one of those simple things that can be really huge. Number 5, a healthy distraction. For me, doing laundry, folding laundry, doing dishes, focusing on that one dish at a time and getting it clean. And even though my heart's racing and I'm feeling panicky, I'm removing myself sort of by doing something, doing things that are things we do on our everyday life at home that usually tend to feel the safest, that we associate with safety, is a huge benefit. That anxiety is a lot of energy to it. It's fuel. And if you can get around to sweeping your floors and doing some laundry and folding that and pulling your mind away from that anxiety and focusing on something mundane and everyday and expelling some of that energy that panic attack is creating is very helpful. Number 6, knowing that in time it will subside. And I already covered this earlier about the time of a panic attack and what's average for me, and I found for a lot of people. Number 7 is getting to a place where you feel the safest. And I wanted to bring this example up. If you and have a forethought of, I need to create a space that I feel safest in, and maybe you don't have a lot of room, maybe there's a space outside. This place I'm sitting in right now is totally for free. It's part of my landscape and I am so grateful for it. And it would qualify for me as that safe space that I can get into. Just getting in those safe spaces, it could be a room, an extra room that you have that you fix up with things that you love that are comforting to you, your favorite, just even your favorite mug or photos and pictures on the wall that bring serenity to you. For someone that would have faith in God, your quotes and Bible scriptures and your Bible. And if you don't have a room to dedicate to that, you could use a corner for yourself, but have a safe space for yourself where you can maybe go to in these moments and use some of these other tools, but be in a place that feels the safest for you. I'm looking. Last but not least, definitely not least, is realizing what your internal dialogue is, especially on a day-to-day basis, what you are telling yourself all the time. Be aware of what that is. If you're not, start thinking about, before I had this panic attack or whatever, what have I been thinking about? There's a scripture in the Bible. And like I said, whether you're a believer in God or not, these scriptures are profound and they work anyway. Paul said, whatsoever things are lovely, are pure, are good, if there be anything praiseworthy, anything of a good report, and he used the actual word think. He's dealing with your mind. Think on these things. And that is a conclusion to these tools, and I hope that you have found them helpful. If you are, please help me by it takes a nanosecond to hit that like button. And if you have any other strategies that you want people to know about or you want to share, this would be a really good place for you to go below into the comment section, scroll through all the other videos, and you'll see the comment section, put something in there. Let me know what that might be. And until next time, you are worthy of love. You are important. You matter. And you are not alone in this journey. Thanks for watching.